Hi, this is Tavi Greiner, Astronomy.fm's Vice President of Communications. If you enjoy our programming, please let us know with a donation to astronomy.fm/donate. We really do rely on your support, and it's true, every little bit counts.
AFM.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
The curtain of night is drawn back. The telescopes are trained. The domes are open. The audience is set. Now, step into the event horizon.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Event Horizon here on Astronomy.fm radio. It is another Friday evening. This one, of course, happens to be July the 26th, 2019, 9 o'clock in the evening for those of us here in the eastern portion of North America. Universal time would put us at 1 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, July the 27th. So that means we are live for the next hour, and of course, we have our chat room open and ready for you to join us. Just go to the homepage, astronomy.fm. You'll see where you can get into the chat room here. We'll be reading it as we go along. And if you want questions to us, feel free to type something in there. We've got you and me, Nick. We've got In the Quiet Wood, Glenn, Cassie, and Starstorm so far in our chat room. Come on over. It's free. It's easy. It's unintrusive. It doesn't. You don't have to have any personal information. You don't even have to use your real name if you don't want to. But
the other thing, of course, is this show will be posted sometime tomorrow evening on YouTube. I will have all the links in there. Thank you, Starstorm. I appreciate your company for the show and for getting the links for me. And
when you type into search engine in YouTube, what do you type in? Astronomy.fm?
You can type in the Event Horizon, YouTube.
The Event Horizon?
Because it has... Yeah, because basically what happens is it will take you to the playlist that I have been building. Now, I did create separate accounts for Under British Skies, for Comet Watch, and for Space Pirates. So every time there's a live show, I normally get the show at the weekend. I get the links normally from Plaid Mac. And, of course, I post everything up on YouTube, and I put a link on the relevant page. All the YouTube links, of course, go to the AFM Facebook page, so it's a public post, and you can see it there, and you can join in and you can read the links as we go along. And even when I get my worms all bickled up, you can follow the stories.
The computer's slow. I typed into the Event Horizon. Of course, you get the movie and the band, and is there a song or something like that? Oh, what happens at the Event Horizon? Will we colonize our solar system? Event Horizon Explained. It's just something called Event Horizon. John Michael Gaudier's Event Horizon movie clip, black holes. Okay, so what would be a way of defining the search to get to us?
Let me go pop the link up just 1 second.
Okay,
that was one place I wasn't actually planning to go into was YouTube tonight, because normally when I go into YouTube, one of my favorite tracks starts to play, and of course I get to drift away and enjoy the music. I am a fan of Gagum music from South Korea, so I've got a lot of it there.
Gagum time?
Yeah, Gagum time. Gagum time. The Gagum is a long wooden instrument with strings.
Oh, I thought that was Gangam.
You're thinking Gangam, not Gagum. Gagum is a musical instrument from Korea. It's a very venerable instrument. I follow about 3 or 4 players. One of them is Luna Lee. She plays rock music, so she plays stuff like AC/DC, etc. on the Gagum. I follow Mina Young, who plays jazz on her Gagum.
That doesn't really work.
I'm getting yelled at because I'm not putting a link in for the show.
We're getting off topic here. Yeah, I see like a couple dozen Event Horizon things, and none of them points to us.
Okay.
So
yes, okay.
Something more definitive.
I'm putting the link for the playlist. The link is in the chat room for the playlist.
All right, I'll check that out. I was just thinking of a general search. What would somebody look for?
Can you spell instrument? It sounds like something I'd be interested in.
Let's see.
Oh boy. If you're on Facebook, look up my picture, look at my T-shirt. It's a Gagum thing.
All right, so I clicked on the link. Let's see where it goes. YouTube playlist. Is that what it was gonna? What it would be? Playlist. The event with a little up arrow between the event and horizon. So let me try that in a search. Get out of here. All right.
So anyway,
what's that? Is that a tilde? Is that what they call that?
A what? These?
Tilde? No, tilde is a squiggly line, I think.
Yes.
Right.
It's got the little hat in the middle between event and horizon.
A little like up arrow type of thing.
Yes.
Over the number 6.
Yes, over the number 6 on your keyboard.
All right. Back into YouTube. It's going to make this nice and easy for everybody to be able to do that, just by what we tell them. So I'll try it with a little. I think it's not a tilde. It's a little.
Just to.
There's a name for that thing.
Oops, sorry. This is what I'm talking about. AC/DC Thunderstruck Gagan version by Luna Lee. And it is, I'll put the spelling of the instrument in there for you. We're getting a little bit off topic, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
This is the event horizon, and strange things happen the closer you get to the event horizon. But okay, let's get back on topic. The first story I'm going to visit is one that really snuck up on us. Yes, quite right. Make sure you subscribe too, because that way you'll know as soon as I post a new episode. Very well put, Cassie. Very well put. Okay. So, and welcome Carnplex to the chat room. I won't do my Captain Kirk impersonation. I might just blow everybody's eardrums. So anyway, it snuck up on us. Scientists stunned by city killer asteroid that just missed the Earth. This is a Washington Post story. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a hype, I suspect. Alan Duffy was confused. Thursday, the astronomer's phone was flooded with calls from reporters wanting to know about a large asteroid that just whizzed past the Earth, and he couldn't figure out why everybody was alarmed. He thought that everybody's getting upset about something that they knew was coming. Now, Duffy is the lead scientist at the Royal Institution of Australia. Forecasts already predicted that a couple of asteroids would be passing close to the Earth this week. Then he looked up at the name and details for an asteroid called Asteroid 2019 OK. And it was kind of like, wow. Basically, it wasn't one that we've been tracking. It appeared from out of nowhere. Can we say Cheblinsk again, please? Michael Brown, a Melbourne-based observational astronomer, is said, according to the data from NASA, the craggy rock was large, estimated at 57 to 130 meters wide. That's 187 to 427 feet, and it's about one. It came in close at about 1/5 the distance of the Moon to the Earth, and a lot of people consider that a little bit close. So it came within about 45,000 miles of the Earth, in other words.
Necessarily say with an ad of a really obnoxious polka dot shirt.
Yes, there is kind of a very loud polka dot shirt on the ad. Thank you, Washington Post, for that one. It's one of those things. We can't monitor the whole sky. Hi, Red Shirt. Nice to see you here. Basically, there's so much sky. There's just not enough instruments watching it. This is why places like the Northern Observatory in London, Guy and Daniel's good work, is because they take the information from the Minor Planet Center, and they image and they help define the orbit, which means they can go and calculate it a bit better. They can figure out where it's going to be in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years, or maybe longer. Of course, we all remember the asteroid called Apophis, and everybody was getting their knickers in a twist because, it's going to hit the Earth in about 2030 or something. No, not happening. Hey, Black Projects, welcome. Oh, come in and go. Okay, get back in, mate.
2030, we might have an actual way to defend against your Earth object.
Yeah, you're quite right. There's a lot of work being put into it, and a lot of people are on it. It is an ongoing project. It is a multinational project. A lot of people have got ideas from using lasers detonating nuclear weapons in its path, which would kind of require a major shift in the Outer Space Test Ban Treaty, because it is basically illegal to detonate a nuke in space. Apart from the...
might hit an oncoming aircraft.
Yep, that's another good point. That's why all of us with our laser pointers at night have to be very, very careful, because we could accidentally blind a pilot without intending to. That's why the police get theirs in a twist when they get reports of it via air traffic control. There's some idiot flashing a laser pointer at me. Well, he might actually been trying to point out a constellation, but accidents happen. Welcome back, BP. Now, there is Assassin on Twitter has posted a video of the close encounter. Thank you. It's the heat, I tell you. Oh boy.
We also have to get rid of all that space junk.
Yep, we got to do something about the space junk, because
like the camera and the wrench.
The wrench, the screwdrivers, the toolkits, the toilets, the little bits of booster rocket, etc. We need that. That is another project that needs to be dealt with.
I think that has to be dealt with before we even start looking into defending from.
Well, we can do them both, really, because they are actually working on ways to net defunct satellites and push them into a re-entry orbit, so they'll actually burn up. It's a pretty light show.
You end up with a right old melted wrench that way.
Well, yeah, or you end up with a piece of Skylab in your backyard like the Australians did, and if you reported it and wanted compensation, you lost your piece of history because NASA wanted it back.
Yeah.
So I guess most people that maybe have got a piece of Skylab that fell in the Australian outback.
Very quiet.
Yeah, they're keeping very, very quiet about it. However, as I say, amateur astronomers can assist. They can take the basic information that the MCP has and then use it, look for it, image it, track it, upload their information, and that will allow other people to go ahead and really to refine and figure it out. Then we can start tracking it with radar and figure out exactly what we've got. A lot of the time it's going to be a moving pixel in your CCD images. With radar we can get a better idea of the size and shape. Is this a wake-up call? Kinda. Is the unexpected always expected? I guess so, because at the end of the day, we can't watch every piece of sky. But having said that, it's a sizable chunk of rock, but it's nowhere as big as one's capable of causing an event like the dinosaur extinction. More than 90% of those asteroids, which are more than 1.5 miles wide or larger, have already been identified by NASA and its partners. Yeah, I know. It'd be so cool to explode in nuclear space. The only problem is, if you're not careful, you can create what's called an electromagnetic pulse. And
I think that's got to be atmospheric, though.
Yeah, but as I say, I don't like the idea of detonating nukes in space, because at the end of the day, you set a precedent like that, and that really will cause the end of perhaps the outer space test ban. Do we need nuclear power for spacecraft? Yes. We have it in a form that's used by probes like Voyager et al., but because it's not an actual detonation, it's legal. And Black Projects is actually pointing out, Marty, EMP works outside the atmosphere too. So it would be kind of a bad day on planet Earth, particularly if it was a very close in detonation. And let's face it, most of the time you're trying to create something that would supposedly shove the asteroid away. The problem is you're looking for a shockwave effect, but there's no atmosphere to cause a shockwave in space. Yep. In space you can scream, and the space tells you why. Suddenly your spacesuit smells funny.
Mm-hmm. That's why you also can't put like a giant fan on the asteroid and try to steer it out of the way that way.
Well, Glenn is asking, are all near-Earth objects found from telescopes? Most of them are tracked.
Found? I doubt it.
Well, you sometimes
but
get
I
lucky
doubt it.
if you're looking in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, a lot of space telescopes are actually used by researchers for specific projects to look in specific parts of the sky.
And of course, the other thing, you detonate the bomb above the atmosphere, and you just wiped out most of the satellites in that area. All your comsats, all now just pieces of junk. Anything electronic is fried. And Redshirt 3 is pointing at the EMP from the fishbowl explosion, stretched from Hawaii to California. That wasn't a smart move. But then again, we weren't using our equipment wasn't as delicate as it is now. Think about this. Most of the microelectronics we use is not EMP proof. Early transistors, they could take a fairly hard knock.
Tubes, vacuum tubes.
Oh, vacuum tubes are lovely. They'll take it, they'll eat it up and ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the nice thing about. That's why I bought a late 60s, early 70s transceiver. All my finals are valves, and it is pretty much EMP proof. I have a Yaesu FT101EE. It's lovely. I can turn it on and I can heat the room with it. Load the plate and the tank circuits up. I don't need central heating. I've got a valve set. Yeah, old cars don't have problems either. Modern cars would be fried. It would fry the computer on the car. I'll tell you something. I use a VHF radio transceiver in my car. The first car I ever used it in was a Saturn 99, the one with the suicide seat.
Space 1999?
No, the Saturn. I think it was a Saturn 92 or a Saturn 99. It had the suicide door on the driver's side.
Suicide door?
Yeah, because the driver's door opens out and the passenger door opens outwards, not in the opposite direction.
Towards the front?
It opens the way it's hinged. It's not hinged at the front; it's hinged at the back.
A Saturn was that way? I don't remember that.
It's a Saturn car, yeah. It was a sports car.
Mm.
And what used to happen, because the car was mostly Tupperware, it opens backwards. Thank you, Glenn. I could transmit on high power, and I would instantly shut the engine down. And as Redshirt points out, the Catalina Sky Survey and Sloan Sky finds most of them now. The guys on Mount Lemmon in Arizona see a lot of them. That's what their job is. They're part of Space Watch. Hey, Rich. Hey, Rick. Hey, Jim. And the LSST will soon take over. Yeah, basically, as Glenn points out in the chat room, someone comes up behind you and it hits everything, and it hits the passenger trying to get out. That's why they're called suicide doors. Mm-hmm. But as I say, it was a lovely little car, but it was so vulnerable to RF, it wasn't funny. So just take that a stage further with a nuclear explosion in a low Earth orbit, and you're going to multiply the damage. Modern cars will suddenly stop running, and they won't run without a computer. Mm. So no, detonating nukes to try and stop errant pieces of rock, particularly that close in, is going to be a waste of time, and it's going to cause a heck of a lot of grief for us back on Earth. But there are people that don't think about that when they do silly things like that. Mm-hmm. They are, but the Saturn Car Corporation still fitted it. And it used to make me laugh a bit, but ho-hum, because the other side didn't have a passenger. Where the front passenger sat, there was only that one door. There was no other door on the car. But there's still a few of them about. Lovely car, goes like a rabbit from stop. But 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Not a bad going. Mm-hmm. But anyway, talking of Earth orbit and radiation gives me a brilliant segue into the next story I found. First of the two Van Allen probes is being shut down by NASA. Now, think these probes are supposed to burn up in the atmosphere in about 15 years. So on July the 19th at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the mission control at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab in Maryland sent the signal ordering Van Allen Probe B to close down its systems after running out of propellant. So what's going to happen? Slowly but surely, it is going to the friction from the atmosphere will start pulling it in, and it will burn up. This was originally launched on August the 23rd, 2012, atop an Atlas V rocket from Cape Canaveral. Sorry, it's no longer Cape Kennedy Air Force Station in Florida. The Van Allen probes A and B began a planned 2-year mission to study the Van Allen radiation belts that encircle the Earth and, ironically, protect us from cosmic radiation. After subsequent extensions, that stretched out to 7 years. Both unmanned orbiters were still fully functional, but they now lack sufficient propellant to make needed course corrections and keep their solar panels angled towards the sun. As a result, in February 2019, NASA engineered all the probes to go into a circular orbit that will slowly decay over the next 15 years and see them re-enter the atmosphere and prevent the craft from becoming space junk. Mm-hmm. So, Probe B has now exhausted its propellant and now cannot maintain its altitude. So the agency shut down its electronics to prevent the radio from accidentally blinding other spacecraft or ground stations. That was very thoughtful of them. Mm. According to the agency, Probe A is still operating. It's expected to run dry in early September, when it too will be deactivated. 7 years is a long time. Now, when you think about it, people who came into this mission as students and postdocs are now well into their careers. So basically, the two Van Allen probes raised a whole new generation of scientists, which is a great legacy. Hey, Uptronics, welcome to the chat room. So, as I say, it is interesting. It's been a good 7 years. We've learned a lot about what protects us and keeps us going on this planet. But now it's time to say goodbye. Mm-hmm. Right, staying in Earth orbit for a little while longer, and we are 22 minutes into the show. Wow, we are doing good. Light Sail 2 has deployed its sail, and it's started entering its solar surfing mode. This is a story from July the 24th. So, after launching aboard a SpaceX Vulcan Heavy last month, the Planetary Society's Light Sail 2 has now entered the most critical phase of its mission. It's successfully unfurled its solar sail, and it's beginning to surf through space on the power of the sun. It's a milestone event for technology with possible interstellar potential. What is great about it, of course, is that the whole idea of using the sun to propel things through space dates as far back as the 17th century, when Johannes Kepler observed comet tails being blown about and by what he believed to be a solar breeze. In fact, he wasn't that far out, because the sun does create a wind, the solar wind, and it is quite an effective and a measurable effect. Centuries of science have confirmed that the astronomer was onto something, but rather than wind, it's actually sunlight, which actually exerts small amounts of pressure in the form of photons, which can be harnessed for propulsion. Well, that's the thing, Glenn. We don't know how it's going to react the further it gets to the sun. We know that the effect continues well out into the solar system, and there are photons out there far out as to the edge of the solar system. How much propulsion, we don't know, but this is what the project's all about, really. And if you think about it, one noteworthy example of this idea was Mariner 10. It ran out of fuel en route to Mercury in '74, and it used its solar arrays to harness these tiny forces and control its orientation. And in 2010, JAXA launched Icaros towards Venus, which would become the first spacecraft to actually demonstrate solar sailing technology in interplanetary space. And Redshirt 3 is pointing out it uses the momentum of light to push the sail. like one of those toy radio meters. Okay, so the solar wind does stop at the boundary of the solar system, but it would be an interesting way to travel inside the solar system. And of course, the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen when it meets the solar wind from another star. So there's all kinds of interesting things. And as Cassie's pointing out in the chat room, it's going to be test, test, test. This is going to let us try an awful lot of ideas out. And of course, the other thing is, it would be a brilliant way to augment a mission. So you could start the mission out in the close to the sun using the solar wind, and then you can switch to ion propulsion. And I actually like the idea, because for a small amount of propellant, you get an awful lot of movement and power. So yeah, okay, it does depend on the photon flux density, but it is something that is a possibility. And of course, if you're a Deep Space Nine fan, you will know that at least one spacefaring race around the space station used solar sails to get around there. Not Aeon Flux, no. I'm trying to remember that race that Major Kira was a part of, that the Cardassians had enslaved. The name escapes me for the minute. I haven't watched DS9 in a long time. The Bajorans. There you go. Because the Bajorans, according to Star Trek, used solar sail technology. And Black Projects has put a link into the chat room called Saved by the Heliosphere. Thank you, Black. Yeah. And Redshirt 3 says 1.21 gigawatts of power. That's an awful lot of oomph. So
that'll get you up to 88 miles per hour, and then anything happen.
Well, and of course, if you use other technologies as well, of course, then you've got quite a bit of convenience. You can use the solar, you can use a light sail, you can use ion technology, and thing is, the fact that people like the Planetary Society are willing to put their money into such science projects is one of the really big things. It is based, a lot of the support comes from the membership base. You can get a membership and make donations, and they will keep you abreast of what's going on. And as Black Project points out, this is 88 miles an hour constantly. So this is a constant velocity you're going to get from this. It's great. Why not? Anything is possible. It won't be going anywhere in a hurry, but you can use adjustments to the orientation to change its path ever so slightly, and you can swing up into higher and higher altitudes. Yep. So, and then Marty's laughing at a comment in the chat room. Is it the gravity bubble and move space?
It's the 88 miles per hour.
So anyway, there's a lot of people who would like to try and use this technology to get to the nearest star system, which is Alpha Centauri. It could help. The idea is it could help it arrive within 20 years from launch, rather than the 30,000 years it would take with today's fastest spacecraft. Having said that, there's an awful lot more to the mission than just that. The plan is for the light sail to orbit the Earth for a year before reining it in again to burn up in the atmosphere. Again, this is nice. They have made the decision that they're not going to leave another piece of garbage hanging around in Earth orbit. They're going to deliberately deorbit it, so it's not going to cause a problem. It might give someone a nice light show, and if you're lucky, you may get a piece of fused material to add to your shelf for you if it comes down in the Australian outback. Great, mate. I've got a nice piece of light sail to go with the old bit of Skylab. Ripper. But anyway, things are happening. People are trying to get us back on track. We have been off track for at least a good 45, 48 years. Yeah, I know everybody loved the shuttle. It didn't go anywhere. It went to low Earth orbit. It pushed itself to go to Hubble, and to do the final servicing mission on Hubble, they had to have a second one on the launch pad, ready to be crewed and launched literally within about an hour. Particularly if a message came through that something had happened to the shuttle during rendezvous or just after and it had been crippled, they would have had to launch a rescue shuttle literally to go get it. Where's Thunderbirds or Jerry Anderson's Eagle spacecraft when you need them? Unfortunately, it's still stuck in somebody's mind and not made fact.
Just thinking, if the light cells work really well, the Space Force can use them to parachute down onto the moon.
Yeah, there's a or take off again from the moon.
There you go.
Well, it beats trying to use a hang glider.
Like a kite surfer, yep.
Yeah, or go parascending.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It's halftime. Go ahead, go for it, Nick.
Go for it, Marty. I'll give you 5 minutes.
You go. You go right ahead. You're on a roll. So
I'm on a roll. Well, okay. So it is halfway through the show. It is 21:30 Eastern Time. 01:30 hours Universal. You're listening to the Event Horizon, and we are live. And yes, I'm on a roll at the moment with some stories. I've been busy this evening as soon as I got home from work. Been looking for some good stories since we've had no shows for the week due to issues. But hey, we're back, we're live, and we got shows. What's happening? Mars 2020, the rover's nuclear power plant is being fueled up by NASA. Expect the usual complaints, we don't want nuclear material on launch pads, yada, yada, yada. We have proven that this stuff is safe. So, the Space Agency's Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, Thomas Zurbuchen, has given the green light to begin placing the plutonium-238 dioxide fuel into the multi-mission radioisotope thermoelectric generator, MMRTG, that will provide the rover with heat. And yes, Glenn, I get on a roll. I can get on a roll with heat and electricity. So they're starting to set this up. It is good. It's being built under the auspices of the United States Department of Energy's Office of Space and Defense Power Systems. It isn't a nuclear reactor. Before anybody starts saying, "Oh, it's a nuclear reactor," no, it's not. It's more of a nuclear battery. It generates 110 watts of power through the natural decay of plutonium-238, radioactive isotope, and it is set in 8 general-purpose heat source modules. This stuff is designed, if the rocket was to explode on the launch pad, that the actual ceramic material surrounding the isotope will not crack. And of course, they've tested this stuff to destruction almost, particularly before Voyager left on its incredible journey through the solar system and beyond. That was the Hubble repairs was the last time we had two shuttles on the launch pad at the same time. Never happened again. I think the only time we ever had 2 rockets ready to go was during Skylab, and that was because they had a command module retrofitted. All the storage areas have been converted into very crude seating so that the astronauts could be rescued if there was a problem with Skylab, or if their return ship was in any way damaged. Brilliant idea. Saturn 1B, great use. And there seems to be sharing of beer going on in the chat room. Clink. Pop a top again. Anyway, most of the heat from these are converted into electricity through thermal conductors to power the rover's experiments. It's also going to keep it warm during the bitter Martian nights. So excess heat is channeled to keep the spacecraft going and nice and warm, when it's normally it would have to think of ways to conserve energy. We've used over 27 nuclear power systems in US space missions. The MMRTG is a more recent innovation. It was first installed in Curiosity, and though production of the isotope has been restarted, the United States actually has enough plutonium to build 2 more MMRTGs after the Mars 2020. Those haven't been assigned missions yet, but no doubt they will. Black Projects has put a nice link in there. The ones from Apollo 13 survived re-entry, and they went into the Pacific Ocean. They're still intact. There is no radiation leak from them. practically shows you how good this stuff is and how well it's built. It will be completed before the July 2020 launch date, when it will lift from the Cape Canaveral Air Station in Florida. The rover will then land autonomously on February the 18th, 2021 at Jezero Crater in the Syrtis Major region of Mars. It's nice that we're actually getting back to exploring new areas, and we're going away from the areas we've been. Yeah, I agree. The only reason we've been able to explore beyond Jupiter is because of nuclear power. And because this is considered a peaceful use of nuclear power in space, it is not covered by the outer space test ban, which is good. Mm-hmm. Okay, where did I get to? We've done that one. So, yeah, okay. We talked about space telescopes. Well, the Chandra Space Telescope is now 20 years old. It's never been serviced in its life. Mind you, I guess you could say that everybody learns an awful lot of lessons from Hubble. So, and it's marking the 20th anniversary with a gallery of stunning new images. This was originally posted on the 25th of July. And when you think about it, this is showing you the beauty of the universe in a completely different wavelength. And it includes a vista detailing the center of our galaxy, a beautiful supernova remnant, and a stellar nursery populated by massive young hot stars. It's kind of it was the flagship space telescope. It was proposed back in '76 by Italian-born astrophysicist Riccardo Giacchione, who later won the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize for Physics for his contributions to X-ray astronomy. And of course, the really great thing is that with all these different wavelength telescopes, we can now produce a stunning multi-wavelength image of our universe. Now, I know Marty wants to go with a VSO alert, so I'll hand over to you, Marty.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead, Nick. It's associated with Chandra, so just look at it.
I was going to let you do that one, because I know you do them so well.
No big deal. Okay, I'll do that. All right, alert notice, since this is related to Chandra, alert notice 674 from the American Association of Variable Star Observers, AAVSO. They're looking for observations of the star labeled UU Aquarius. It's a nova-like variable, and they're going to be looking at it with the Chandra X-ray telescope. So they want people to observe it beforehand, between now and August the 13th. Visual filter is optimal, they say. The range of it is between 12.8 magnitude and 15th magnitude. So one good way of looking at this one is, if, let's say you've got an 8 to 10th magnitude 8 to 10 inch telescope, and if you can look right at this region and you cannot see it, that's a very welcome observation. That means it's not brightening. So basically, if you don't see it in about a 10-inch size telescope, that means it's staying quiet, which is what they want. And you can report your observations. So you can contribute to a Chandra experiment by contributing to this alert notice, AAVSO alert notice 674. It's in our chat room. And it's in the Northern Hemisphere. Well, actually, it's pretty much north and south, because it's right ascension about 22 hours, but declination is just -3. So northern, southern hemisphere observers, it's well placed for everybody. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, so what else has been going on the planet Earth whilst we've been off the air? Well, Musk has been up to it again.
Mm-hmm.
SpaceX's next-gen Starship completes the first Hopper test flight. This is a story 18 hours old, so this is really getting us up to date. The Falcon 9 and Heavy Falcon are the stars of the show for SpaceX. However, the company has deep space aspirations, and they rest on an even larger and more powerful vehicle known as the Starship. I personally think it looks like Dan Dare's Anastasia, but I think Starstorm agrees with that one. Now, of course, today it flew on its next-gen spacecraft for the first time. It's only a fleeting moment as the company commences suborbital Hopper flights. This is really good because this is a new prototype. They put a lot of finishing touches to it, and this is purely the Starhopper at the moment is purely for suborbital work. They want to practice launching and landing it within the confines of the atmosphere. They mounted its Raptor engine to the vehicle 2 weeks ago, and everything actually appears to be on track for the first hopper test in mid-July, in which the Starship would lift off to an altitude of about 20 meters, move sideways, and then come down and land. Obviously, this is the way of space flight. You get unforeseen setbacks, including a fire on the launch pad yesterday, just as the craft started its engines. This accompanied another fiery event last week during a static fire test, when the vehicle fires its engine but remains tethered to the launch pad. So it's been let off the leash for the first time. It's gone without incident. Musk confirmed that the hot test success on Twitter, adding that another 200-meter, 650-foot test is planned for a week or two. So in the meantime, go on.
The last I heard, it caught fire.
Well, yeah, but they seem to have got over that.
Yeah, well, the static test caught fire, and then the actual hop test caught fire, and they had to shut it down early. I think both of them traceable down to the first one was a methane vent tube leak, and I think they're suspecting something similar for the second one.
Yeah, but the thing is, this happens. This is why you test, and you do it in a place where you can actually look at things very, very close up. We did that with Apollo. We tested everything on the ground. Then we went to static tests on the launch pad. We learned a biggie with Apollo 1, like thou shalt not do static tests with 100% oxygen atmospheres. Thou shalt not put Velcro into said atmosphere. It is not good for the astronauts. Yes, that cost us the lives of 3 very brave men. But as Deke Slayton pointed out in the inquiry, what would Gus, Roger, and I'm trying to remember the other astronaut's name. I've drawn a blank. Ed White. Thank you. Would have said, "We want you to continue. Don't let our deaths be in vain." Apollo continued, and it triumphed, putting Armstrong and Aldrin on the moon in 1969. Very easily, it could have been turned around and says, you know what? This is too dangerous. We're not going to do it. Forget it and scrap it. And we would have lost a lot. We would have probably lost to the Russians, because at that point they probably would have spent more time perfecting their N1 engines, N2 engines, and then probably got to the moon, and it would have been a red moon. Yeah, it is fun until something blows up, but that happened. That's why you test stuff. The other story I did find, and I really did keep this a little one until almost to the last of my stories for tonight. We have finally found out when Orion is going to fly. Construction of the Orion spacecraft for the Artemis 1 flight has been finally completed. Yeah, you're right, Glenn. Nixon cut it short because all the glory went to Kennedy, even though he was president during the missions. And he had his own pet project, which was the space shuttle. Mm-hmm. And he wanted the space shuttle to be his swan song, even though other things did actually, in the end, overcome that. So what's happened is, at a ceremony to mark the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landing, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence made a public announcement in front of the spacecraft at the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building at the Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Lockheed Martin have completed the final phase assembly of the first full Orion spacecraft. Don't expect manned space flights straight away. They are planning to send it around the moon unmanned first. Now, the actual service module was built by a German ESA contractor, so everything has now been stacked together and fully integrated and is to be tested. How is it going to be tested? Well, this comes after 11 months after the inner capsule or pressure vessel of the Orion Exploration Mission 2 spacecraft, now called Artemis 1, arrived at Kennedy for final assembly. It's included installation of the major spacecraft systems, including avionics, harnesses, propulsion system, a 15-foot, 5-meter polymer heat shield, 11 parachutes, not 3 like we had on Apollo, 11, and the exterior hull. It was bolted to the service module, and the umbilicals were connected. According to Lockheed, the capsule and service module were stacked in the same final assembly and systems fast cell where Apollo spacecraft were assembled. Orion is scheduled to power up in September of this year, and then it will be shipped to NASA's Plumbrook station in Ohio for environmental testing in a huge thermal vacuum chamber, which will then be followed by electromagnetic testing. If everything goes well, the spacecraft will return to the Space Center at the end of the year for final preparations before the launch of Artemis 1 next year. This will be an unmanned mission that will circumnavigate the moon as a final certification test before the manned Artemis 2 mission scheduled for 2022. It's a new class of spaceship. Yes, it's Apollo on steroids. It's uniquely designed for long-duration space flight, and it is hoped that it will return astronauts to the moon and eventually take the first humans to Mars and bring everybody back safely. Yep, the Saturn V was actually built. It was made by Germany. It was made by Werner von Braun. He started off with his V1 and V2 Vengeance weapons, but this was a guy who wanted to go to the moon. He didn't want to kill people. Eventually, he succeeded. He surrendered his materials to the Allies, to the British and the Americans, and him and his team and all the rockets that the Allies could grab before the Russians were shipped off to the States in parts and rebuilt and tested. The idea is that, according to Lisa Callahan, Vice President and General Manager of Commercial Civil Space at Lockheed Martin, Orion will accelerate scientific discovery of our solar system and will be the cornerstone of defining space achievement of this era. Yeah, he designed it. Well, he didn't make it, I agree, but it was his brainchild. He laid the foundation, so I guess you could say technically, although he didn't build it physically with his own hands, he did make it. It was his brainchild, and all the power to him. He did something that man had long desired to do, which was to shed our earthly bounds, and actually, in fact, diverting slightly, Glenn's quite right. At that particular time, if you weren't in the party, you were most likely in a forced labor camp. Quiet in the Wood is saying, glad to see the progress on Orion, but disappointed in the capsule. Delta Wing for human transport makes sense, at least for our Earth orbit. It's a good idea. There are other designs. Skylon could be man-rated. Skylon is a British design. It uses a Sabre jet engine. And that actually had a successful test as well. So, just 1 second. Where are we? Here we go. Oh boy, I'm doing well tonight. So, it's a hypersonic engine. They've tested the pre-cooler technology, which is the whole basis of the engine. Now, they've simulated supersonic flight. The pre-cooler unit quenched a 420 degree intake airflow in less than 1/20th of a second. That's going some. When you think that you could actually, this is going to be used on an engine that can start in the air, in the atmosphere, and then take us out of the atmosphere into space. This is brilliant. They've basically allowing you to grab your fuel as you go. Most spacecraft use liquid oxygen and a propellant like kerosene to ignite and provide thrust. It's very, very heavy. The Skylon design was built to leave the atmosphere using a Sabre engine. So, as I say, once we get it all sorted, we're going to be quids in. We're going to have Orion. Ariane is finally being man-rated, which is a long time coming. The European Space Agency can actually launch Soyuz spacecraft. It is going to be very wild as and when it finally gets to working. We've taken the really, really big step, and that is, of course, getting the pre-cool to work. So I reckon this is going to take off science-wise very, very quickly. I'm just looking at the time. Wow. We're down to 10 minutes of this show. Marty, have you got any stories before I lose my voice?
I do have a couple. Recently had a launch of the next crew to the space station, and they have successfully gone under the space station. Coming up tomorrow, SpaceX Dragon capsule will rendezvous with the space station, and they'll be installed tomorrow also, the Dragon capsule. Wednesday, launch of a Russian Progress cargo spacecraft will be obviously launched to the space station again. And then on Wednesday the 31st, that's when they'll actually have docking of the Progress ship to the space station. Meteor showers, there's a few coming up for the end of July. Let's see, in order. Alpha Capricornids on July 27th will be peaking, and then on July 28th, the Gamma Draconid meteor shower will be peaking, and this one I didn't know about. July 30th, the Southern Delta Aquariids is actually looking like a fairly active shower. Especially for the southern hemisphere. Northern hemisphere rates are about 5 meters per hour, but southern hemisphere can be have a nice view of up to or approximately 15 meters per hour. So that'll be a pretty nice one. Getting ready for the August Perseid meteor shower. So end of July 30th, looks like a pretty good meteor shower for the southern hemisphere. Let's see. Something about the European Space Agency is getting ready for their Mars Courier mission. That's something to look forward to. Another mission to Mars. This will be what they're calling it, a takeaway service. It's going to go to Mars, land, pick up samples, launch, and come back. So that mission is on track. Let's see. Go ahead.
Sorry for interrupting, Marty, but Glenn asked a question in the chat room. When will the ISS be decommissioned? It's been in orbit since 1998. It's just scheduled to come out of service in 2024 after 26 years of active satellite duty. This is a story from Science Alert that shows the watery grave. That's where it's going to go. So it's going to be a nice deep place in the middle of the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that, I didn't know this, that the International Space Station travels as far south as it'll actually go between Australia and Antarctica. I didn't know it traveled that far south.
Well, actually, I did, because I have a program called PC Sat 32.
Okay.
I track the ISS on a regular basis for the simple reason I want to work it as a radio amateur. Mm-hmm. So I need to know when it's going to be over my horizon for radio passes. The other thing, of course, is there is a place called the Spacecraft Cemetery. It's been the final resting place of many human-made space vehicles through the years. It's an area of ocean located about 3,000 miles off the eastern coast of New Zealand, 2,000 miles north of Antarctica, one of the most remote spots on the globe, and it's about 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers deep. It has a technical name, too. It's called the Oceanic Pole of Inaccessibility. It's the point in our oceans furthest from any landmass, which is why it's the preferred choice of all space agencies eager to avoid crashing their spacecraft into populated areas.
Right, now the space station is over Western Africa, by the way, according to Heavens Above.
Another good site, I've got their app on my phone, again, because I need to know where certain satellites are if I want to work them through them. Mm-hmm. But that's my excuse.
Okay. I got an article here from Alma. It's about a microquasar SS-43. They've done a new imaging run on it, gotten some fantastic images, the most advanced images of it. It's about 18,000 light years away in the constellation of Aquila the Eagle. This is probably the one that one of the most famous quasars out there. I thought this was one that was actually technically visible in a large telescope to people, and it had a unique feature that part of it was redshifted, part of it was blue shifted, so it kind of piqued a lot of people's interest. In fact, I've got a little bit of a recording of a rather interesting recording of one of the first reports on this microquasar. Here it comes, just about a minute's worth of recording here. Official news recording.
Well, this is a new planet that they spotted. It's really something. It's got these astronomers are baffled in how. This is it right here. I hope you can see it. They call it the SS433. And they found out that it's coming towards the Earth, 30,000 miles a second. But it's also going away from Earth, 30,000 miles a second. It seems to be coming and going at the same time. It just breaks all of the laws of physics. They don't know what to make of it. So I went to the Vatican Library, look up at these old archives. We've been involved with astronomy, astrology for years and years, hundreds of years. And I did find that in these old books, the planet was called Viene et Vienum planet. Means coming and going planet. And it says that in the book...
There's the official news report of when this one first came out, back in 1979. All right, let's see what else we got here.
How about a giant red star that's dying?
What?
A giant red star has been spotted in its death throes.
Okay.
Okay, so the star Camelopardalis pulses out a shroud of dust and gas. Very similar process to what astronomers have observed from the red giant T Ursa Minoris. Now, human lives are just blips on the cosmic timescale, which makes it impossible for us to witness the full life cycles of stars, planets, and galaxies. But sometimes if we're really, really lucky, we might be able to catch the crucial moments playing out before our eyes. Now, a team from Australia and Hungary have just done that, watching as a giant red star goes through its death throes. The star is actually T Ursa Minoris. It's located about 3,000 light years in the constellation of Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. At about 1.2 million years young, the star is only about a quarter the age of the Sun, but because it started with twice its mass, it's burned out much faster. So now we're watching almost in real time as it enters its next phase of life. After exhausting its fuel supply a few million years ago, TUMI became a variable red giant, changing its size, brightness, and temperature on a semi-regular schedule of pulses. Energy production has become unstable, and during this phase, nuclear fission flares up deep within the side of the star, causing hiccups that we call thermal pulses. These pulses cause drastic, rapid changes in the size and brightness of the star, which can be detected over centuries. The pulses of these old stars also enrich the entire universe with elements including carbon, nitrogen, tin, and lead. Now, for this star, it looks like the stellar light show is almost over. They've been examining observational data gathered over the last 30 years and found that the star seems to be shrinking, dimming, and cooling. This indicates it won't be pulsing for much longer, and soon it will shed its outer layers and leave behind a white dwarf. Not a red dwarf, and no, there is no rimmer. Okay, just checking the time here. Oh gosh, we're almost at the end of the show.
We are.
Yeah, we're in the last few moments of the show. So, as I say,
close us out.
Close us out. Okay, so Chief Engineer Rob, please tell Captain Savick that the away team of myself, Marty, and Starstorm are ready to beam up. It's been great being on live tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we should see you next week. Look up.
Thanks everybody in our chat room tonight. Really appreciate you being here. Don't forget, we got more programming coming up after the event horizon, and all these programs will be repeated every 4 hours for the next 24 hours. So stay tuned, and see you all again next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Energize.
We hope that you've enjoyed this program from AFM Radio, the broadcast service of Astronomy.fm. This program has been released under Creative Commons license. Please contact us for details. You may find more of our AFM original programs on our website. It's really easy to find us. We are Astronomy.fm. You may also find us in the iTunes radio listings near the top of the News Talk section, and also as an iTunes podcast selection. We'd love to hear your comments. Please email us at radio@astronomy.fm. Thanks so much for being part of the voice of astronomy around the world and across the known universe. This is Astronomy.fm Radio.
Hi, this is Tavi Greiner, Astronomy.fm's Vice President of Communications. If you enjoy our programming, please let us know with a donation to astronomy.fm/donate. We really do rely on your support, and it's true, every little bit counts.
AFM.
There I was, doing my thing, and all of a sudden, wham! Astronomy right between the eyes.